Hey y'all, this is Coach Johnson. Look, I hope this goes okay. This is my first time doing this. I bought a couple of GoPro cameras to film my tennis players' matches and stuff like that. So I'm using that in here and hopefully converting it to a YouTube channel. I hope everybody's doing okay. You know, I don't anticipate this video going viral. No pun intended. Yeah, there was a pun intended there. But you know, maybe things will get back to normal sooner than we, you know, anticipate. Our topic's macromolecules, and we're trying to finish it up. You know, hopefully we will by middle of the week or so and move on to cells. I just want to review. Remember, the four major macromolecules are carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, nucleic acids. These are big molecules, you know, made from smaller subunits. Big molecules called polymers, made from smaller ones called monomers. Remember, they all have certain jobs. Carbohydrates and lipids, again, their main job is to supply energy. Carbs are the primary energy source, and lipids are the secondary or energy storage. Proteins we were working on before, you know, our interruption. And proteins, their main job is to build and repair body parts, but they have several functions, one of which we'll cover in just a few minutes, enzymes. Okay, and then nucleic acids, which we'll get to after we cover enzymes a little bit here. Remember, big molecules like carbs, your big complex carbs are called polysaccharides. They're made from smaller units called monosaccharides hooked together. Glucose is your best example of a monosaccharide. Lipids made from fatty acids and glycerol, and proteins, the building blocks, are amino acids. We talked about those before we left. And then nucleic acids, which we'll get to, they have a building block. Their building blocks are called nucleotides. I think y'all might have had a question about one of those, maybe on one of those assessments we had. Okay, but going back to the notes again. Carbohydrates, remember, they have that 1 to 2 to 1 carbon, hydrogen, oxygen ratio, you know, and the three different kinds, mono, di, and polysaccharides. They do supply 4 calories per gram of energy. A lot of these end in OSE, like glucose and sucrose and whatnot. Okay, we go to lipids. Lipids' main function, remember, is energy storage, but lipids have that lot of carbon hydrogen bonds right here, like you know, we emphasize C57H110O6 and less oxygens. 9 calories per gram of energy here, so lipids do have more energy per gram than carbs. We don't necessarily like to use them, but anyway, remember on your lipids, you know, this would be the example of a lipid, really big, where you got your a lot of carbon and hydrogens here, and you know, about 6 oxygens on this one. You know, and remember, it kind of gives you the pitchfork shape here, where you got that, and you got those right there. Okay. Now, going to proteins, which we were working on, but you know, before we got out of here. Remember, proteins have nitrogen as well. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and it's sometimes sulfur. Remember, going back to before we did this, we went to and talked about the 6 most abundant elements found in living things: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur. Notice mine's chomps, but you know, we said one of the better ways to remember it, you know, was chinops. But bottom line is, proteins, if it has nitrogen in it, it's probably a protein. That was on one of those assessment questions. You had structural formulas, and you picked out the one that has the nitrogen in it, which would be an amino acid. And remember, amino acids are the building blocks of proteins. Primary job is to build structure, carry out cell metabolism. They do provide a minimum amount of energy, 4 calories per gram, but remember, usually on a nutrition label, there's not as many proteins as there are carbs and fats. Okay. We talked about other functions of proteins, how some are involved in muscle contractions, some are involved in transporting oxygen in the bloodstream, like hemoglobin is a blood protein. We talked about people who lack hemoglobin have, issues with being anemic. Providing immunity, which is big right now, with this coronavirus, those people who get the coronavirus will build up these special kinds of proteins called antibodies to fight them. Anytime we get some kind of germ, our body produces these antibodies. Now, this is the primary focus, I guess, of why I'm on here today on a Sunday at about 4:57, by the way. But we take a look here. Enzymes are special kinds of proteins that serve as catalysts. Now, what a catalyst does here, a catalyst speeds up chemical reactions, okay? And that's what these enzymes do. Now, notice here, enzymes often end in ASC. Don't confuse that with sugars, which end in OSC. They end in ASC, okay? But I'll get to that in a moment. But a catalyst is a substance that speeds up a chemical reaction but does not change itself. Okay. Now there's certain terms that involved with enzymes we'll get to. The word substrate, which is kind of like just a substance, but we call it a substrate. Active site, we'll get to in a moment as well. So all of these deal with enzymes. Okay. Now we take a look at enzymes here. This right here represents the cell membrane. Maybe if you listen, you would notice that as the cell membrane, because those right there are lipids, and the cell membrane of cells are made of what we call a lipid bilayer, double-layered lipids. You got the lipids here, but you can see the bottom of it. But embedded into those membranes sometimes are proteins, and in this particular case, you got enzymes embedded in them. Okay, these are the enzyme proteins, and notice here they have a certain shape. And here's that substrate we were just talking about. This substrate right here will combine right here with this enzyme, and it fits together right here like pieces of a puzzle. Okay, and it produces this one, and then that fits into here like a piece of a puzzle, produces this one, and fits into here, right here, piece of a puzzle, produces this one, and it fits into here, and eventually you get to your end, what we call your product. And that's what you want at the end of a reaction, is a product. Photosynthesis, for instance, is a chemical reaction, and the end result is glucose. Okay, that would be the product. Now, we come over here, we kind of got a different look about it. There's the protein. There's the substrate combining with the protein or the enzyme. And notice here, the location where the two combine right here is called the active site. The word site means, location. Construction site, crash site, this is the active site where the enzyme combines with the substrate. Okay? Now, as we stated, enzymes speed up chemical reactions. Now, I always do this when I talk about enzymes. You take a look at this graph, and I think you had this graph to fill in earlier, with the work I handed, I issued. But anyway, you take a look at this graph. All graphs have an X and Y axis. All graphs should be labeled. This right here on the X-axis is the course of the reaction, what the course path the reaction takes. The Y-axis is the amount of energy required, within this reaction. Well, you got two graphs here, and I guess I'll put one maybe in green, okay? And notice this right here is the path with the enzyme, okay, in green. And then I'll put the other one in red. Red means stop, but it doesn't necessarily stop, but this one is slower. Guess I could have put it in yellow instead. But anyway, you got two paths of the reaction. Now, if we notice here, both have what we call an energy of activation. okay, or an activation energy. Okay. Well, activation energy is the energy required to get the reaction started. Okay. Now, what enzymes do is, and this is sometimes hard to understand, enzymes speed up chemical reactions, of course. That's what they are. They're catalysts. But the way they speed it up is they lower the activation energy. Okay. In other words, they reduce the amount of energy required for the reaction to take place, okay, and thus can speed it up. Now, if we take a look, the best way I like to explain this is if you got a charcoal grill and you're grilling, you can get the grill started without using lighter fluid, okay, and this would be the course of the reaction without putting the lighter fluid on it. I always wanted to yell on that, so I guess I got it now, okay. Now, so you're gonna get the grill started with this, but with the lighter fluid, it's going to be faster. Okay, so the rate of the reaction is going to be faster with the enzyme, and that's what enzymes do. They make reactions occur easier. They speed them up. Okay. Now, if we take a look here, we see that. You got your reactants here at the start, and you end with what we call your products. And that's what I'm talking about, the charcoal grill. You're going to get that grill started without the lighter fluid. Okay, you're going to get to your end result, but with the lighter fluid, it's just faster and easier. And that's what enzymes do. They make chemical reactions occur easier. Okay, and again, activation energy, the energy required to start the reaction. So enzymes speed up chemical reactions by lowering the activation energy. Okay. All right. Now, so if we take a look at maybe one more simple thing about enzymes, just a couple things on this overhead right here. Notice here the enzyme is called hexokinase. Ends in ASE. That's indication there is an enzyme. I'll get to something else involving that in a moment. Apparently, right here, this is the enzyme here. Okay. Now, this right here would be what we call the substrate. Now, the substrate is going to combine with the enzyme at the location right here you can see called the active site. Now, here you can see where it does it. That's the enzyme. That's the substrate right there, and the location where it does is the active site. Okay. Now, if we take a look here, you guys had to do this, label this, and I told you to go to a certain website to find it. You shouldn't have had any problems there. Just quickly labeling this. Obviously, if this is the enzyme, and of course, all of these are at the bottom are the enzyme. These right here are the substrates. Right here. When they combine, that enzyme and substrate combine, you have what we call the enzyme-substrate complex right here. Okay. Still the enzyme right there. Notice the enzyme doesn't change. That's the wording of the word catalyst. Okay. Speeds up chemical reaction without undergoing change itself. And of course, the products are right here. These two things right here are what comes out of it. Okay. Now, we come over here. This looks very similar to what I showed you on the overhead just a few moments ago. Hadn't looked at this, in a while, but this right here would be the progress of the reaction. Excuse me. Okay. This right here would be the progress of the reaction. All right. I'm going to put RX in for reaction. Okay. So I got that one out of the way. Let's see. This right here would be the energy. It says right here free energy. This right here would be the energy rate of the reaction. So now I have my X and Y axis labeled. What they're showing you right here with these two lines, It's kind of what I was showing you earlier. I'm going to put yellow up here. This one right here would be the one right here, and of course it'll be without the enzyme. Okay, and of course I'm going green on this one. This one be the one with the enzyme, so that's where that goes. Okay. All right. This right here would be called the energy of activation. I'm just going to come down here and do that, the free energy of activation. Your reactants are what you always start with. So your reactants are right there, and your products would be right there. I'm just trying to speed things up a little bit. Don't want y'all to get bored of me. I'm sure you are. But anyway, now let's go to nucleic acids real quick. Okay, wrong one. Let's go here. This is the only thing we hadn't covered. We've been talking about it a lot, throughout, ever since we started in January. Nucleic acids, obviously, if you look at the term, it's found in the nucleus of cells. Complex macromolecule that stores information of cells in the form of a code. That code is either DNA or RNA. DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid, which is here. RNA stands for ribonucleic acid, which is here. The function of nucleic acids is to determine the traits of organisms. Now here's another one now. They're responsible for making the proteins. Now, if you watch that YouTube video that I put on there, the link of the DNA wrap, one thing you constantly heard in there was DNA makes proteins. And that's what they do. And hopefully, before the end of the semester, we'll get to DNA again and talk about how they make proteins. But anyway, smallest unit. In other words, the monomers of nucleic acids are called nucleotides. Just a little FYI, which, nucleotides are made of, a sugar. I think it's a 5-carbon sugar. Phosphate and a nitrogen base. I think that was one of your questions on maybe the preparing for the EOC questions or something like that. But you chain together nucleotides, you get a nucleic acid. Now, the reason we don't spend as much time on this is because, we cover it at a later time in the topic of DNA. Now, going back to here, just a simple review. Take a look right here, nucleic acids. The building blocks of them are called nucleotides. Got, a model of DNA here. If we take a look right here, this right here would constitute a nucleotide right here. I got 3 things. I got a sugar right here, this black ring. I got a phosphate, this red ring, and I got 1 nitrogen base right there. So those things, we hook up nucleotides together and we get the spiral or twisted ladder, what we call the double helix of DNA. Okay? All right. Now, going to this final thing, so I can get out of here and go to my mom and dad's. But by the way, there'll be less than 10 people there. Hopefully, just about 4 of us when I go see my mom and dad. Social distancing, right? But anyway, we take a look at this, and hopefully you understood this. This is just the basics of nucleic acids. Basic of macromolecules right here. Your macromolecule basics. All right. Now, we take a look. All we have them is here listed, and I listed them the way we studied. Okay. Now we go to function. What are the functions of carbs? Well, we said the functions of carbs was energy. So, number 16 would go here. That's energy. Okay? All right? Now, monomers. In other words, the smallest units that make them up. Well, remember, the big ones are called polysaccharides. So, the monomers are called monosaccharides. So, that's number 10. Okay? Now, examples of carbs, sugars. We're looking for sugars. So where would sugars be? And let me go cross these out right here so make it easier. Number 2, we got glucose, starch, which is a big carb. We got glycogen. We got cellulose. Cellulose misspelled right there. I didn't do this. Okay. Now, but now we got lipids. We go to lipids. We'll cross out 13 too. Cross out lipids here. Lipids are fats. The function of lipids, remember, is energy storage. So I'm looking. Let's see where there was energy right there, but now I need energy storage, and it's right here mixed in with some other things. Form cell membranes. Remember, in lipids. Lipids make up cell membranes. That lipid bilayer, we call it, of the cell membrane. Okay, so that's number 9. Let me change my color here. All right, so I got 9 there for energy storage. Form cell membranes as chemical messengers, and we did say fat is a good insulator. Okay, now the monomer, remember, for lipids is fatty acids and glycerol, which we take a look right here, number 7. And then examples of lipids, we said fats, oils, waxes, cholesterol, all of those, so that's number 5. Okay, now we go to proteins. All right, so proteins number 11. Protein's main job, build and repair tissue. Okay, does it say that? No, it doesn't say that anywhere on here. But we do know that proteins enzymes are types of proteins that have the job of speeding up chemical reactions. So we'll go right here with that one for proteins. It does not say build and repair tissue, but now we do have amino acids, which are the building blocks of proteins here. Examples of proteins: muscle, remember, nuts, beans. Hemoglobin is a blood protein. Keratin, which is found in our hair and nails, is an example of a protein. Helps keep our keratin is a protein that helps keep our hair, skin, and nails healthy. So that's number 3. Now we go to nucleic acids. See here, nucleic acids, which would be that one. I'm going to scratch that one out. Now, we go, the job is to carry genetic information, so that's 14. The monomer of nucleic acids is a nucleotide, that's number 8. And notice I've already given you examples of nucleic acids, DNA and RNA, which is number 12 right there. So this is a great, simple, I want kind of a cheat sheet on the basics of macromolecules, the basics you need to know. Okay, function, what's their main job? Monomer means what are the smaller units, and examples of each. And if you think about it, all of these are basically covered on that sheet right there. Okay, carbohydrates, glucose is the monosaccharide. There it is, energy, key word. Lipids, made of fatty acids and glycerol, energy storage. Proteins, made of amino acids, build and repair body parts. Now there's a lot of other functions of proteins as well. Nucleic acids, right here, made of nucleotides, store and transmit genetic information. That right there is the double helix known as DNA. Now, I'll try to do this, we'll review the questions maybe tomorrow. I'll set up another one of these, try to put it on a link, on YouTube, and put it into Google Classroom. Hope everybody's doing okay. If you got any questions, feel free to shoot me a message via the Google Classroom. Just share a post through Remind, email, whatever. Okay, I don't mind answering your questions. We all got a little more time on our hands than we used to. Y'all take care.